What's up, and welcome back to another edition of DBSN Overtime. It's been a while since we've seen you guys, but we have a lot of playoff scores to get to, a lot of playoff updates. I'm, of course, JD Lowe.
And I'm Eli Baxter, and we're excited to be back. Starting out, we're going to start with the NBA postseason. We're in the playoffs right now. What was happening in the playoffs yesterday?
Well, the NBA, it's like we said, the playoffs are off to a hot start. Lots of movement there with what we expected. The Celtics taking down the Magic. Of course, the Celtics they've been high in the rankings all season. They're an NBA championship favorite. Game two was their last game when they beat the Magic, and they moved to 2-0 on the series. Then the Cavaliers also, they were obviously high all season in the rankings, and they took down the Heat 121 to 112, and they take a 2-0 series lead. And then the Warriors, they fell to the Rockets 109 to 94. So now the series is tied 1-1.
Yep, and today the Knicks are heading to Detroit for Game 3 of the series, as the series is tied 1-1. The Thunder, they're taking on the Grizzlies in Memphis. The Thunder have dominated the first two games, and they're out to a 2-0 series lead. And then the Nuggets, they'll head to Los Angeles to play the Clippers, as the series is tied there 1-1.
Yep, and then as we look forward to Friday, the Celtics will take on the Magic again for Game 3. Like we said, Celtics currently up 2-0. Then the Pacers, they'll take on the Bucks in Milwaukee for Game 3, as the series is 2-0 in favor of the Pacers. And then the Lakers, they'll take on the Minnesota Timberwolves and Anthony Edwards. He just got fined, I think it was like $50,000. Was shouting some sort of obscenities at the fans. The fans and him, they were going at it for a while. And he's been known to kind of stir things up a little bit. Him and John Morant, kind of the two guys in the NBA, they just don't really seem to care, which kind of makes it entertaining for fans. But nonetheless, that'll be Game 3 with the series tied 1-1 right now.
Yep, and then on Saturday, the Cavs, they'll head to Miami for their third game of the series. Obviously, they are up 2-1 or 2-0 right now. And then the Thunders and the Grizzlies, they'll take on, or in Memphis for their Game 4. We don't know the series lead yet for that game, heading into Game 4, because still need to play Game 3. The Nuggets, they'll head to LA for the Clippers. And then the Rockets, they'll head to Golden State for Game 3, as they're tied 1-1 currently.
Yep. And then that'll wrap up the first round of the NBA playoffs. And so we'll turn over to the MLS as we have some new updates.
Yep, it's match week 10 already in the books. And Austin FC, they took on LA Galaxy, and they won 1-0. LA Galaxy, the MLS champs from last year, they're only one of two teams that have not won a game all season. Could be because Ricky Puig is out injured for the season, or for a while. He has been. He missed the MLS Championship or MLS Cup last year against New York Red Bulls. But the LA Galaxy are really struggling right now. And then the Columbus Crew and Inter Miami, the only two unbeaten teams that were remaining before this week. Inter Miami came out on top 1-0. It was in Cleveland too. It was a big game for both teams, as there was around 60,000 people in attendance for that game. And then Charlotte, they took down San Diego FC 3-0. The Sounders, they beat Nashville 3-0. New England, they beat New York City FC 2-0. The Philadelphia Union, who just gave away one of their best players, Daniel Gazdag, to the Columbus Crew, they took down Atlanta United 2-0. Then Red Bulls New York, they lost at home to DC United 1-2. Montreal and Orlando City tied in Canada 0-0. The Chicago Fire, they lost to FC Cincinnati, another Ohio team, 2-3 at home. The Houston Dynamo and the Colorado Rapids tied in a high-scoring game with 4 goals scored total. The Minnesota United and FC Dallas both held each other scoreless. Same with St. Louis and Vancouver. And then Real Salt Lake, they lost to Toronto FC 0-1. And then the Portland Timbers, in a very high-scoring game, tied with LAFC 3-3. And then an even higher scoring matchup was when San Jose Earthquakes lost to Sporting Kansas City 3-5 in San Jose.
Yeah, thank you, Eli, for all those updates. And just to specify about the NBA, the conclusion of the first 4 games of the first round will be on Saturday. Obviously, all things foreseen, if it were to go longer, it could obviously go to 7 games. So, but just the first 4. But we turn over to MLB news now. Lots of of games at the start of the season for the MLB. The Cardinals, they lost to the Braves 1-4. The Padres fell to the Tigers as they got shut out 6-0. The Yankees, they took down the Cleveland Guardians 5-1. Aaron Judge, actually, he just tied Babe Ruth for how many home runs he got in his first. I want to say it was, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, maybe 250 games, something like that. But him and Babe Ruth had the same amount of home runs in the same amount of time. Very interesting statistic there for him. But then the Phillies, they fell to the Mets 3-4. The Reds took down the Marlins 5-2. The Orioles lost to the Nationals 3-4. The Mariners, they took down the Red Sox 8-5. And then the Cubs, they beat the Dodgers 7-6. The Twins beat the White Sox 6-3. The Astros beat the Blue Jays 3-1. The Pirates took down the Angels 3-0. The Rays and the Diamondbacks, they were in a close one, and the Rays ultimately won 7-6. And then the Giants took down the Brewers 4-2, and the Athletics took down the Rangers 5-2.
Yep, as the MLB just started a couple weeks ago, so far in the National League, the leaders, we've got the Mets at the top sitting at 18-7. Then closely following them is the Padres, who are sitting at 17-8, just one game back. And then the Dodgers, they're sitting at 16-9, and the Giants are tied with the Dodgers, also at 16-9. And then in the American League, we've got the Yankees sitting up top. They're at 15-10. The Tigers are at 15-10 as well. And then the Cleveland Guardians, they're at 14-10. Yankees and Guardians just play. The Guardians won that series there. And then the Rangers, they are sitting at 14-10 as well, tied with the Guardians.
Yeah, always interesting to me as a hockey fan, just how many games that these teams play are just a couple weeks into the season, and they're already at some of them 24 games, 25 games into the season. So lots of respect to them for all that takes. But yeah, we'll turn it over to NHL news now. The regular season is over. It came to an end last weekend. The Jets finished at the top. They ended up winning the President's Trophy for the obviously the league's leader in the regular season standings. On the Jets, Connor Hellebuck, he finished with the William M. Jennings Trophy, which is awarded to the goalie or the goalie tandem if there's another goalie on the team who plays 25 or more games. But it's awarded to the goalie or goalie tandem that let in the fewest amount of goals over the course of the regular season. So he ended up winning that, and then he is a favorite for the Vezina as well as the Hart Trophy for the league's MVP. So, and he's been good for the Jets in the playoffs too, as the playoffs just got underway, and he's helped lead them to a 2-0 start against the St. Louis Blues. And then in the rest of the playoffs, it's been very, very fun so far. Just last night, the Washington Capitals, the number 2 team in the regular season, they took down the Montreal Canadiens. Montreal Canadiens, they were a team that barely snuck into the playoffs. Nobody would have expected it at the start of the season. But yeah, so the Caps up 2-0 on the series now. The Stars, they beat the Avalanche, and they moved to 2-1 on the series. The Kings, they beat the Oilers, and they'll move to 2-0 on the series now. And then as we turn to the Columbus Blue Jackets, obviously they are not in the playoffs, but they did have a promising end to the season. One of the mini bright spots on their team was Jet Greaves, who he played the last 5 games actually it was, of their season. He went 5-0. He had 2 shutouts, and he ended up playing 11 games in total on the season with finishing those last 5 games. And he had the highest save percentage of any NHL goalie who played more than 10 games at .938. So very promising stuff on the goaltending side of the team there, as he could be their real starter next year. As Elvis didn't have a poor season compared to some of his prior seasons, but Jet Greaves really stole the show there at the end, and looks like he could help try to carry a team that was on the bubble of the playoffs, hopefully carry them into a playoff spot next season.
That's right. And then heading into the PGA Tour, heading outdoor, stepping off the ice onto the course. Last week, Justin Thomas is back on top as he won the RBC Heritage in Hilton Head at Harbor Town Golf Links last week. He won in a playoff over Andrew Novak, who both finished 17 under for the tournament through 4 rounds. His last win was in 2022 at the PGA Championship when he won the major. And then just a week prior as well, Rory McIlroy, he got his career Grand Slam at the Masters. He was only the 6th golfer to do that. joining a very short list but very impressive list. You definitely want your names up there with people like Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus. And then he won the Masters in a playoff win over Justin Rose. It was a hectic round 4, but it was definitely exciting to watch and definitely gets me excited for the rest of the PGA Tour season. And then next week is the Zurich Classic in New Orleans. It's the only team event of the season. We'll be able to see Rory McIlroy and Shane Lowry look to defend their title from last year. The two Irishmen have seem like best buds on tour, and they're looking to carry the momentum and possibly defend their title.
Yeah, thank you, Eli, for that golf update. And now let's send it over to Ian with another edition of Ohio Sports Roundup.
Thanks, guys. It's a quiet week in Ohio sports as we roll closer into the summer. Yesterday, the Cincinnati Reds defeated the Marlins 5-2 for their 12th win of the young season. The Reds will face the Rockies tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday. Meanwhile, the Cleveland Guardians fell short to the Yankees 5-1 yesterday and will look to bounce back as they take on the Red Sox in Cleveland on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Also yesterday, the Cavs beat the Heat 121-112 in the playoffs. They will face the Heat again on Saturday in Game 3 in Miami. And finally, the Columbus Crew look to bounce back after a tough loss to Inter Miami last week as they host the San Jose Earthquakes on Saturday at 7:30 at Lower.com Field. That's it for this week's Ohio Sports Roundup. This has been Ian Miller, and now back to Eli and JD.
Thank you, Ian. And with that, we're going to conclude our show. It was a short show this week, but we'll definitely see you hopefully one more time before the end of the school year. And I'm Eli Baxter with DBSN.
And I'm JD Lowe, and thank you guys for watching another episode.